So we are live. Welcome everybody. This is the first live stream episode of DiEM Goes Local here in Ireland. DiEM Goes Local is an initiative from the grassroots of the pan-European movement DiEM 25. It's about staying together in difficult times because of the COVID crisis and trying to have a discussion about what's going on at grassroots level in the different countries, in the different cities, for workers, for the migrants, for probably the people that are most that suffer more for the impact of the COVID crisis. So our first episode today, we are very happy to welcome Lidia Cichocka. I hope the pronunciation.
Yeah.
She's a member of the Irish Union Siptu, and she will introduce better herself and she will explain a little bit about her union.
So, as Manuela mentioned before, my name is Lidia Cichocka, and I work as an official in Siptu. And it's I'm working as a density building organizer. So my main function would be to recruit new members to the unions, and basically the numbers are giving you the voice. So the more members you have within employment, the bigger, the better voice you have. So that would be my main function, and I'm recruiting within manufacturing division, and I'll be dealing mostly with employments that are highly migrant populated. And if I can say some few words about, just to introduce Siptu. So Siptu is the biggest trade union in Ireland. We have over 180,000 members, and our head office is based in Dublin, in a historical building in Liberty Hall, which is a historical building where the Proclamation of Irish Independence was printed. And Siptu, our founder is James Connolly. And Siptu was created by a merger of two other unions, which was Irish Transport and General Workers Union and the Federated Workers Union of Ireland. And the merger took place in 1990. And we would represent workers from the public and from the private sector. Within the private sector, we would have a manufacturing division. This is where I work. Then we would have the services division and the CHOC division, which is the transport, energy, aviation, and construction workers. So we would represent those sectors. We would have members representing those sectors. Yes, so that would be my introduction.
Thank you for also for the general context, background information about Siptu. It's important also to keep in mind that we have, as a pan-European movement, we have viewers from Ireland and also from other countries. And since we broadcast also in English, it's easier for us to be listened by people in other European countries. And so it's interesting for our audience probably to know more about different union organization from different country and in Ireland specifically. So my next question would be about the impact of this crisis of the level of employment here in Ireland. It seems to be quite hard. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what are the possible future development about that?
So the pandemic has definitely impacted the levels of the unemployment in Ireland. And if just to bring it to perspective, like the highest level so far, the highest level of unemployment in Ireland were recorded in 1985, and it was 17.3%. Then at the peak of in the previous recession in 2012, it was at the peak level, it was 16%. Now in March we already hit 15.5%, and now in April it's 28.2% in April. So it almost doubled comparing to the previous comparing to the recession. And so the unemployment levels are very high, and the people, maybe if I can talk about the people that were, I feel, were mostly impacted by the, and they're most vulnerable to the effects of that pandemic. So I would definitely say, like, I feel that would be the people working in the low wages employments, low paid employees, basically. Then the homeless people as well.
To make a practical example, what are the low wages sector in Ireland generally?
So at the beginning of the year, the minimum wage was increased to 11.10 euros per hour. So that would be.
No, I mean, what sector are generally the one with the low pay? Are we talking like food sector, hospitality?
So yeah, that would be like hospitality. I would say hospitality sector, if like generally speaking. And then I would say some of the manufacturing plants, they would be the lowest paid employees. Especially the non-unionized, because most of the unionized places we would, because of the collective bargaining, the places with union recognition, I have to say that we managed to bring the wages higher than just the minimum wage.
That's an old story. So if we are together, things get better. If we are alone, it doesn't work.
Sometimes, from my experience, sometimes it's hard for people to understand. Maybe not hard, but they just don't believe it, or I don't know, it takes too much time. But from my experience, that's sometimes it's hard to send that message. You can send it, but it doesn't get to the right, like doesn't get to the audience.
Yeah. On this point, now we are going through a period where the restriction will be gradually eased. Now the Irish government has made a plan of 5 steps, a 5-step plan that will last until August. It's very gradual, and a lot of people is going back to work. So, and possibly a lot of people are scared about the virus, what will happen, and so the possibility of being infected in the workplace. Let's say that I am because the Irish government has put in place a protocol about health and safety that should be respected, and seems that many companies have not respected that. Let's say that I'm a worker in a situation like this, and I find myself that I feel that my health is at risk. What should I do? Who should I?
Like as a trade union worker, my obvious answer would be contact your trade union representative, your workplace representative, and then if you don't have those, if you don't have like any union structures in the place, I would definitely say to join the union. But if that's, I would just recommend people, like if they are afraid of their health, to go to the return to work safely protocol, and then maybe there is one of the instructions there is to nominate a workers' representative. So maybe start putting pressure on your employer to implement that protocol and to like nominate a worker that would be able to represent other workers and work side by side with the employer on the health and safety measures that should be introduced in the workplace.
Okay.
Because, but by the more of you, like the more of you is speaking, using the same, sending the same message, the better for the better, the stronger impact, the stronger influence you would put on it would have on the employer. So I would say like a single voice, definitely find other people that feel the same, and just organize your employment basically.
Yeah. Talking about the union organizing work, how the pandemic had changed your work as a union organizer. How did it work before, and how is working now?
So before I was like majority of the week, majority of time, I would be on the road, going to meetings, meeting members, meeting potential members. Now, because of the restrictions, everything has to be done over the phone. So it's definitely harder to organize people when you cannot. And I find that that the contact with people really help, like having face-to-face contact. It really helps me personally to organize and convince people to join and explain them properly what are the advantages. And so now that has become very difficult. And as well with the school closed as well, then there is the another challenge for myself as well, which is the lack of like the childcare challenge. That's yes. So that would be the change in my work life.
That's common for many women. It's, I would say, it's a universal problem for working women at the moment. So you deal. You told me you deal mostly with migrant workers, right?
Yes.
Who are from which origin? What's their working condition? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
I would be dealing, if like when we talk about nationalities, I would the person the leader, like the leaders that I deal with most the employments that I work with, they would be either Polish, because I'm Polish myself, so then there is the second language really helps in that. Then there would be Lithuanian people, Latvian people, but then you would have cases from Spanish or Portuguese people. So it's there is like people from, but most of the contacts, most of the people that I contact from each, because each employment you kind of have like the shop stewards that I contact, they would be either Lithuanian, Latvian, or Polish.
Okay, because maybe this is not much known outside of Ireland, but in Ireland there is a big Polish community. Yeah. I think it's the bigger migrant community.
I think after British, I think British is the highest, and then we are the second.
And then it's the second one. Yeah. So what were talking about the social impact of this crisis at general level? What were the main social measures taken from the Irish government during the emergency to support workers or laid off workers or unemployed? How was that?
So firstly, the first social measure that was introduced would be the lockdown, that the whole country basically locked down at the end of March. and we were not only people that traveled to work were allowed to leave houses. People shopping for like necessary, doing the grocery shopping, and then you could only leave home for, I think, 2 kilometers away for like a recreation purposes, and now that has increased to 5 kilometers. And then other than that, when like with regards to the financial support, if I can just highlight that it was lobbied, all those those changes were lobbied by the trade unions in Ireland. So firstly, the illness benefit was increased from 203 euros to 350 euros from the 24th of March. And people that are isolating would be getting the 350 for 2 weeks, and people that were diagnosed with COVID-19, they would be receiving that for 10 weeks. Then the second measure was the COVID-19 pandemic unemployment payment was introduced, and it is 350 euros for 12 weeks. And after that, the temporary wage COVID-19 wage subsidy scheme was introduced as well, and it's basically it's for 12 weeks as well, and it was introduced in 24th of March, and it's a support that the workers receive directly from their employers. So basically, the employers, through that wage subsidy scheme, they can keep their employees, even though they are laid off. They can keep their employees on their books, and employees are getting the wages through the payroll, the employer's payroll, and then as well, it's either for laid off employees or for employees that are working part-time or shorter hours because of the pandemic, and when it's a case that their hours had to be reduced. And as well, it's the employer can choose to 85% of that of the average wage, that's the subsidy, and then the employer can choose to top up the employees to the 100% wages or not. And then lastly is the return to work safety protocol, which was introduced at the beginning of May, and that would be the most kind of like health and safety measure that was introduced, which is, and it's a living document. So as well, it was introduced only recently, and whatever amendments will be needed, they will be implemented through the because like a forum for stakeholders will be created as well, and then all the stakeholders, for example, a voice of voice of workers through the trade unions will be at we will be at the table as well to work on that document and work on the safety of the workers in their employments.
This is an interesting point, because it introduced, I think, I'm not sure, but I think introduced for the first time the presence of the workers' representative for health and safety, as you said before. So far, there is a presence, let's say, that is already included in the law in other European countries, but I think after this agreement, this is a new thing here in Ireland, I suppose. And before there was only the health and safety responsible that is nominated by the company. So that's interesting that this is happening now. Yeah.
But even the implementation, like in general, the implementation of the health and safety rules in the workplaces, we as a union, we would have like in the past, I mean, not at the moment, but in the past, that would always be, we would always as far as I know, there was always a voice from the
Mm-hmm.
from the trade union movement. That
Yeah. The sad thing is not all the workplaces are unionized. So
yes, yeah,
they think that now there is in the law the idea that there should be a representative in every workplace. I
yes,
think
hopefully,
sounds good to me. Sounds like a good idea.
yeah.
Um, in your opinion, talking about the measures from the government, from your perspective, what could have been better? What are the vulnerable areas that have not been covered enough?
I think, especially for, I think that the childcare would be one point for people that are still, the frontline workers. Then the introduction of like appropriate personal protective equipment. So, for example, like face masks. If I know situations where employers were introducing face masks, but people were given only two single-use face masks, and they were asked to use them for
Mhm.
certain amount of time, I don't know, few months, or then they were asked to wash them at home, bring them back. The masks were falling apart when washing. So there is definitely I think all employees are welcoming those initiatives from employers. It's not that employees don't want to wear the masks, but like if you want to do it properly,
Of
and
course.
to provide enough masks, or provide the multiple use masks, or yes, then what another area would be as well, that the recently there some companies are introducing the temperature checking.
Mhm.
And for example, if you're if you have a high temperature, you're sent home, and then let's say you're checked after, then let's say if you are good, if you're okay without the temperature, after a few days you return to workplace, and then those few days between the, even if you are sick, those few days that you stay at home, it's not basically I think that the employer should cover those that
Yeah.
time when
This is
the
this is something that,
uncertain time when you are not,
yeah.
you don't know, are you okay,
Something
you
we
have the
should
temperature, but
explain.
are you sick, are you not sick, you have to stay at home, and then who's going to pay me, especially for people at the lowest wage, with lowest wages.
Yeah. This is something we should explain, because this is different from country to country. In Ireland, sick pay is not paid automatically from the first day.
Yes.
So of course, in this situation, if you are diagnosed with COVID, then you have the illness benefit, but you are not immediately diagnosed with
Yes.
in that case, or maybe you have just a common flu. We know that the tests are not immediately done, so there is a window of
Yes.
days, if you are not feeling well, that you are uncovered as but you cannot go to work, you need to stay at home, so you are not covered.
Yes.
uh, so that I think this is a very important point, not only in Ireland, in different countries, that there should be a change in the law in this. I think in general, but especially in a moment where public health is at risk, everybody should have sick pay from the first day. We can discuss if this should be covered by the employee, by the employer, or by the social insurance of the state, but still it's a matter of public safety, not only of justice for the workers, but of public safety. I speak as a worker from the food sector. It's absolutely, nobody says that, but it's absolutely the standard and the normality for the workers in the food sector, in restaurants and cafe. Go to work even if you have the flu, and this is unsustainable, unacceptable normally. But during an epidemics, this is not only a risk for the worker, but is a risk for the general population. This is my personal rant on this. Um, about talking about the workers and the situation that we are living in, what do you think are the main difficulties for frontline workers in Ireland? I don't. I think we already gone through that. Sorry. Instead, what was the impact of this crisis on manufacturing? That is the sector that you deal with more. How is going in that field at the moment?
So the biggest hit, we would represent employees from the pharmaceutical and chemical. We have a pharmaceutical and chemical and medical sector. Then there is agriculture, ingredients, foods and drinks sector, and then there is the electronics, engineerings and industrial production. So the last sector, the electronics engineering, that's the sector that got the biggest hit, and like the highest numbers of layoffs would be, we would record amongst our members, not neighbors, sorry, amongst our members, because not every employment is unionized. So yeah, that would be the sector that we would notice and observe the biggest, the strongest hit. And then recently, in the agriculture, ingredients, foods and drinks sector, there is like in the meat factories, clusters of the COVID-19 have been recorded as well. So that would be another sector that's okay. They are still working and functioning, but then there is definitely, that only shows the need for the higher like health and safety measures to be introduced in that in the meat plants. Yes.
Yeah, you were telling me that this that meat is a particularly hard industry to work in. The working condition you were telling me are particularly hard in that industry, and because you work in a low temperature environment, and many are migrants.
Yes, so that would be the fact that that would be like a lower paid employment, unfortunately, and it's highly populated by migrants, and then there is an issue of them living in the same households. So let's say people working in different factories or different meat plants, and then living in the same households or commuting together because of the low wages. And that could be as well one of the reasons why, because it's a low paid employment, that's why people really don't have a choice to have a, live by themselves or travel by themselves. And so that could be one of the issues there. Then the issue
of course, to the working condition, there are not exactly easy.
Yes. And then the health and safety measures as well, that were some of the places, as far as I know, some of the places are better than others with the implementation of the health and safety measures. And this is that's what we are struggling at the moment with those clusters, trying to help the workers in those.
At the moment, I say this for people outside Ireland, that is not aware of the current news at the moment. The unions are strongly advocating for more inspections in the workplace for this reason, to ensure that the implementation of the safety rules.
Yes, and then the temperature testing. Sorry.
Is done properly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking at general level, all these emergency measures, the healthcare crisis, as a cost. And many observers are already saying that we are already officially in a sort of recession, and we are probably going to face a new austerity phase. Which role, in your opinion, the union can play to face this? And are you, as a union, as Siptu, are you cooperating with other unions at European level, since this will be a common issue for workers of all the continent, of all Europe?
I would say that the approach that the trade unions have throughout the European Union would be the same, that the workers shouldn't be the ones affected. They shouldn't, as you said, pay the bill for it. Yeah, there should be no austerity, and I think that's a common approach among other trade unions. And ourselves, Siptu would be collaborating with other like European trade unions through, for example, the European Federation of Food, Agriculture and Tourism Trade Unions, or the European Trade Union Confederation, or the Industrial Global Union, just to name few of the affiliates that we have.
Okay. About this crisis, this is related. This is more related to the real economy. It's not the first crisis that Ireland faced in the last years. 2008 crisis was particularly hard on Ireland. There was the bailout of the banks. Many things happened, and a long period of austerity has followed that time. But that one was more a financial kind of crisis. This is more about real economy. So, in your opinion, how this is different? What changes for workers?
I think it's the main change would be for workers that deal wherever there is like human interactions. So let's say in the hospitality sector, they did get the hit the last time. But as you said, it was a financial hit. Now the whole businesses have to be restructured. The social distancing have to be adhered to, and that would be one of the differences that I could mention comparing to the previous recession. Then, as like in employments where people do like more manual work, let's say construction or manufacturing places, then the changes would be like health and safety, the new health and safety protocols that would have to be introduced in each employment, and kind of like a restructure of those, and making them follow the safety protocol. And then lastly, I think the biggest change, the biggest difference with the recession from 2008 would be the aviation sector that was very badly hit, and they probably got amongst the hospitality, they got the hardest, they were hit the hardest. And that would mean as well changes in the whole operation of flights. Before that wasn't the case, so that would be another difference then as well. Because if I can go back to the aviation as well, like now, the main, like if you travel somewhere, you have to self-isolate for 14 days. Then after coming back from the country, you have to self-isolate again for 14 days. So going away for a weekend is not really an option, unless if you in Ireland, there is 20, the statutory holidays amount is 20 days. So I'd say no one would be able to afford a weekend away. So that would be
for a weekend away, for a couple of days away, I have to stay at home for 14 days. It's not feasible.
And then 14 days when you will get there as well. So that's like what, 28 days, over 30, over a month, just to go somewhere for 3 days. So that would be another big change. And then the whole, I think lastly would be the office work had to be restructured as well, and it was everyone that can work from home should do so since the lockdown started. So then there would be a question of the office spaces. If people prove to be efficient and productive working from home, then I would say there would be a question mark over the paying the rents for the office space, for the bills for maintaining the offices in general, maintenance of the office.
I would say we need a lot of houses in Dublin. So if there is some space left, I would have a couple of ideas about how to use that,
Maybe that could be, but I personally feel that there would be some changes in that, office work environment in that kind of sector.
No, of course. Probably all our way of life must be rethinked. It should have been rethinked anyway, because we were also in an environmental crisis before this crisis. So it's probably really the time to rethink the way we live, to rethink the way we consume, to rethink the way we work, to make it more sustainable. This is a big damage to the economy, to our ordinary life, but can be also a window of opportunity to rethink the future in a better way. I try to be optimistic, or at least to have a hope for the future. There is also what I would like to address. We talked about a lot of issue and negative things, but we organize, we try to give impulse to social movements or to unions to make things better for the future, So So first of all, thanks for the work that you do. It's a very important work for make the world a better place. And thank you for having been our guest and take some time to answer to our question. I hope there will be other opportunities to talk about this kind of issues for workers in Ireland. and a little piece of information for our viewers. There will be another conversation on Dublin DSC YouTube channel on Monday, because as a second episode of our DiEM Goes Local, we will have a conversation with another member from DiEM25, from Emma Justum, from the National Collective of DiEM in France. And we would talk about current crisis in Ireland and in France, because we also think that it's interesting, as we started a little bit today, to talk about the local situation and to compare a little bit how it's doing the economy in the different place, how the government is dealing with it, what should be better, who's been left behind, maybe. Because from as a pan-European movement, we want to rethink also this Europe and make it more a better place and a place of prosperity for everybody. And we need to see what are the areas of vulnerability and inequality to know where we really need to go. Thank you very much, Lidia.
Thank you, Manuela, for having me.
And to the next time. Alla prochaine. They say in French. France says bye.
Okay, bye. It was nice to